From Mamma Mia, welcome to The Spill, your daily pop culture fix. I'm Laura Brodnick.
And I'm Ksenia Lukic.
And coming up on the show today, there are some wild rumours that Sophie Turner and Chris Martin are dating. We're going to get into that, but actually the backstory between them is a little bit more interesting than the rumours. Plus, Lily Allen's new album, West End Girl, has been released. We have all been listening to it on repeat. As soon as it came out, the world started this hunt for a woman called Madeline. She has now come forward. It's gotten very messy. We're going to unpack that. But first,
we have some more relationship news.
Yes.
So Katy Perry and Justin Trudeau have hard launched their relationship in a very, very Hollywood way. So basically, Katy was celebrating her 41st birthday over the weekend in Paris, and her and Justin were seen leaving from this famous cabaret club called Crazy Horse Paris. And they were packed, and someone gave Katy a rose saying, "Happy birthday." And it was all on TMZ. And it really reminded me of like the mid-2000s when people were coming out of nightclubs and it was all about TMZ and all about the paps, because I feel like we don't see that as much anymore.
Yeah, now a lot of the time celebs will either do like a very staged red carpet to announce their relationship, or they'll do it on Instagram like the rest of us in like a photo dump or like a video or something like that to kind of very soft launch it. I can't decide whether Katy and Justin hard launching at Crazy Horse is like the chicest thing ever, because it's almost like it's so camp and silly that it almost goes the other way, or if that is just a crazy thing to do for like one of the world's biggest pop stars to launch her relationship with the former Prime Minister of Canada at that particular club.
Yeah, so this particular club, it's a cabaret club. It's kind of like the sexier, more avant-garde version of Moulin Rouge.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone's naked.
Have you
The
been?
way that I've seen it described is like all of these nude performances. No, I haven't, but I went to the Box in New York.
Oh, okay.
Did you ever go to that place?
No, but I've been to Crazy Horse twice and it is a fun time, a loose time.
So it's kind of similar in that sort of same way where it's really intense, not intense, but very sexy performances at the Box. Like there was one with an item that was used in different orifices of someone's body live. So it's kind of like a sex show, but artistic.
Yeah, Crazy Horse isn't that. Crazy Horse is more like there's all the women, all the gorgeous women dancing on stage, like mostly naked.
Yeah.
They apparently have very strict rules of like what their breasts look like, what their nipples look like, all that sort of stuff. But it's just some boobs at the end of the day. Like it's a fun time.
Did you ever watch that movie Showgirls?
Yeah,
I got the
yeah.
picture of her having them.
I feel like they
would
potentially would do that at Crazy Horse, but it's a very cool place to have a birthday party. But I guess also Katy and Justin, like they kind of had. They've been so public with their relationship in a way, but it's all very kind of calculated publicity. Like they had that full date day in Canada where for some reason we know every restaurant they went to, every bar, what they ordered, where they walked their dog, where he dropped her off. And then there were the photos from the yacht, which again, could have been not completely staged because they were on a private yacht, but they were in an area that's well known for paparazzi. So they must have known there would be photographers there. They seemed like happy to passionately make out on top of the yacht. And now we've had the exit from Crazy Horse. It's like they had this three-prong approach to their dating strategy of how to roll it out. So by the time we saw them in public like this, holding hands, and it's such a hard launch, people are already on their side.
Yeah, and do you know what's really interesting to me about Katy Perry this year is that the public perception of her seems to have really shifted. We had the whole space debacle where she launched her Lifetime's tour set list and people were kind of a bit icked out by that. Then there was all that blowback from Lifetime's tour in general, talking about how, you know, she wasn't going to sell any tickets. But then there was this shift that we spoke about a few weeks ago where, you know, she's now starting to sell a lot of tickets. This tour has been incredibly successful. Then she breaks up with Orlando Bloom and everybody feels like they're on her side. And now she's hard launching this relationship and the public perception seems to be very, very happy for her.
Yeah, I think in particular that just the space journey was the one that hit her the hardest and just because that made international headlines in such a way. But I think this like perceived hatred of her, like it always felt like quite surface level, that it was just a few very loud people on the internet screaming it from the rooftops. But once the algorithm takes over, like all those edits of her at her concert, like they would show Taylor Swift and Gracie Abrams and they would cut to Katy Perry and they would always use a bit where she kind of fell or stumbled to make it look like her show was terrible, or to make it look like there weren't people at her concerts. But that concert did really well in ticket sales. It's more so I think that just her album was not critically well received. And even a lot of her Die Hard fans, like, we love you, but we can't really get behind this song. But I think also it kind of goes to show that, like, once a woman goes through a breakup and it's perceived that she has been treated badly, like people thought the whole Orlando Bloom, him going to that famous wedding without her, people thought he had come to Australia to break up with her. All of a sudden we saw a woman who we thought was jilted and everyone's like, not on our watch. Like, it's interesting how that kind of whipped around in her favor. And then the Justin Trudeau, like, for some reason people are so on board with this, like it's an old school rom-com movie that they're watching.
It's interesting to me because I know that he had a lot of, people always thought he was really the hot Prime Minister from Canada. That he'd always had that image. But it's like he's now like sexier and edgier. And it's like leaving this Crazy Horse Cabaret Club, which is a very sexy club. It's kind of like upping that sexy factor rather than it just being like, oh, you're a cute politician. It's now he's like really sexy.
I'd be interested in if like he gets any blowback from this Justin Trudeau, because we know his ex-wife put up that statement. Well, it wasn't about them, but it was a sort of a statement about breaking up when the photos of him and Katy Perry came out, and they've got kids together, even though they've been separated for a while now. But they were like a golden political couple for so long. I'd be interested if people, and Katie's younger than her as well, I'd be interested in like if kind of like the dominoes kind of fall like in favor of her but not in favor of him, or whether people are so invested in this love story that they don't want to hear about like the side drama.
Can you imagine your dad going and
hooking up with Katy Perry
and then coming out of like a cabaret club? You'd be like, Dad, come on.
Yeah.
But look, like, they look really happy. Looks like a good time. I want to go to the Crazy Horse. I never went when I was there. But,
it's a fun time.
It looks like a good time. But yeah, Katy Perry and Justin Trudeau.
So a little bit of an unexpected story started circulating over the weekend, and that is that Sophie Turner is dating Chris Martin.
Yes, I've seen this. And this one kind of popped up on my feed, and I was, a bit reluctant to look at it. I thought it was just a bit of a clickbaity one. I wasn't sure if there was much validity to it.
Oh, no, there's zero to no evidence backing this up. And if we were a reputable news source, we wouldn't be commenting on it. But we're not, so we're going to dive into it. No. It's just, there's a lot of, it just started as like, I think, one page 6 rumor.
Yeah.
That sort of then started escalating because a number of outlets picked it up, and all of them were contacting Sophie Turner and Chris Martin's teams, who all said no comment. So they were very much aware of the rumor. So it's something they could have shut down if they wanted to. It's just interesting how these things kind of build. It had to be like a perfect storm of all these facts coming in. So we know that Dakota Johnson and Chris Martin, even though they haven't formally announced it, it's very sort of well known that they have broken up after nearly a decade together.
I really loved them together, especially after Gwyneth. I really loved Chris Martin and Dakota Johnson
and also Gwyneth loved Dakota Johnson.
Yeah.
Gwyneth Paltrow gave more interviews talking about Dakota Johnson and Chris Martin together than Chris Martin and Dakota Johnson gave together during their very long relationship. Because she would just be like, yeah, I love them together. I love her. It's so fun. I love him. Like, she was just all on the record. And I thought it was especially interesting this weekend that all of these photos have come out of Dakota Johnson at her younger sister Stella's wedding. Mm-hmm. So that's her half-sister with Melanie Griffiths and Antonio Banderas, and you just see all these, and Dakota was her bridesmaid in this Spanish wedding. You just see all these photos of Dakota Johnson looking like tragically beautiful. Not that she's tragic, but that was the vibe, in this like black lace bridesmaid's dress holding a red bouquet with her head down smiling, kind of very mysterious. So she's doing okay.
Didn't she have some boyfriend, some aristocrat called Peregrine or Perry or something?
Yeah, so Sophie Turner has been dating Peregrine for quite a while now. I think they went Instagram official in 2024. So she hard launched him on her Instagram, but he was like the 5th photo or something like that. Or maybe he's like the last photo.
Buried in
Yeah. Okay. But they had been photographed out together so many times. It was like a known thing that they were dating and together.
Would you call that a hard launch, or would that be like a soft hard launch?
Well,
because it's like, if it's deep inside, it's like you want people to see it, but it's not enough to see it on the first slide.
Well, no, but it's just the fact that they had been rumoured to be together for so long, and there was such a build-up around who she would date after that Joe Jonas divorce, and like how that just blew up with the accusations she had done something dangerous and him trying to paint her in a bad light, and then her going to dinner with Taylor Swift and turning the whole story around. So when she started hooking up with this guy, all eyes were on them. I think it was like a group photo right at the end of her big Instagram carousel, but even her putting him on the grid after there'd been rumours, everyone everyone's like, oh, she's super serious about this guy. So, yes, his name is Peregrine Pierson, but he's called Perry for short. And he comes from an incredibly rich family. Like, they own a big entertainment company, but they're also a part of the aristocracy.
Yeah, he's a Viscount, isn't he?
He's a Viscount in waiting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So he's not even a real Viscount. So why are we talking about him?
So he's going to inherit that title.
I think he's a few behind in the family.
Oh, okay.
Like,
so he's not even like direct in line.
No, not quite direct in line. But, you know, he might get there one day. He's got some stuff going on for him. So there's been rumours that Sophie and Perry had been on and off for a while. There were so many photos that would come out of them, like walking the streets together, kissing and hanging out. There was photos of her taking him like to friends' weddings and events. And like they were fully like the story started building that they would be engaged soon. And then the rumours that started coming out were that they were on a break. They weren't photographed together for a long time. Apparently they went to this huge society wedding. And again, this is getting really in the weeds of all these like rumours and things. But it's crazy how UK society just leak all of their own goss. Like we know this from everyone who's like adjacent to the royal family. They just leak all their own goss to all their people in different media outlets, and that's how it comes out. That they went to this huge society wedding together, Sophie and Perry, and kept like having huge fights on the dance floor where people could see them, and then going away and coming back and like kissing and making up on the dance floor and then fighting again. And apparently that was the last straw for their relationship, and they haven't been seen together since.
There's nothing like fighting at a wedding, right?
Yeah.
There's something about a wedding that really brings out the worst in relationships.
Yeah, it's a very heightened emotional day, and it's a huge day of drinking, and it's usually 2 a.m. on the dance floor where things get crazy. But I also think if your relationship isn't in trouble, you make up the next day when you sober up. Obviously, there was more happening behind the scenes.
I'm just looking at a photo of him. He looks really tall because she's tall.
He is very tall. A tall man can get away with anything. This man's a Viscount in waiting, and he's
quite cute, and he looks really tall.
Oh, yeah. He is tall. He is tall and cute. And I'm sure that's all he has going for him.
I know, but I just didn't really – I knew that they were dating, but he just wasn't – it's not like he was out in public with her much in terms of on red carpets or, you know, at public,
it's
events.
All pats, yeah.
But yeah, so apparently her and Chris Martin, but wasn't she like obsessed with him?
Yeah, so that's the kind of interesting part of the story here. And one thing I love about Sophie Turner is like she's such an open fangirl. Like if you see her on the red carpet and she sees someone that she loves, she doesn't play it cool. Like I remember when there's these videos of her meeting Jonathan Van Ness from Queer Eye at an event, and she is just losing her mind. She is kneeling on the ground. She was married to Joe Jonas at the time. She's screaming for him to come over, and she's like falling into his arms. And I've seen her do that a few times. Like if she loves someone, she loves them. So she loves Chris Martin. So there was like a Joe Jonas TV show they were filming, and they filmed him and Sophie at dinner for her birthday. And in the video, Joe Jonas says to Sophie, "I have a surprise for you. Someone wants to say happy birthday." And he holds up this video message from Chris Martin saying happy birthday to Sophie, and she loses it. She tears up. She says she doesn't want to cry. She loves him so much. Like he is her ultimate, not only her ultimate like musician, but her ultimate kind of celebrity that she worships.
Celebrity crush.
Yeah.
So is she actually dating her celebrity crush?
Well, here's the thing. It's unsubstantiated at the moment. So a lot of it has just been like very rumor based. Like a source spoke to Page 6, a source spoke to Daily Mail. This video thing with Chris Martin happened so long ago. So it's not like someone I don't think has seen that information and said like, oh, they're both single, they must be dating. There's also no photos of this alleged date.
Secret date.
Yes, a secret date that they had, which I guess is fair. The one thing we know about celebrities is that they can go on dates without being seen. So when they are seen, it's because they want to be seen or they just don't care. There are 2 dates when I was like piecing all the kind of bits and pieces from all these gossip sites together. There's 2 dates where they were both in London and both in LA, where they're not photographed, but they're known to be in the same city. So people think that either there's potentially 2 dates that happened back to back within like in the same month, or one of the dates happened on that night and they're still talking the story.
This is like almost the level of tracking the private jet that you've just done.
Yeah, that's the thing. If these guys were using private jets more, we'd be all over them. Well, I'm sure they are, but I think because they don't own them, it's harder to track their usage. Not like Taylor Swift's private jet or Kylie Jenner's private jet is public information, so we always know where those girls are at all times. But that is the story. And at this point in time, neither Chris or Sophie are commenting on it, which is fair enough, because if they shut it down, if it's not true and they shut it down, it potentially becomes a bigger story because they've denied it. But because they haven't shut it down, even though both their camps have been notified, it is one of those things that is now like quite spiraling out of control.
Well, I think people just get a bit excited, especially when you start to find old videos of people getting excited about like nothing like, someone actually getting with their celebrity crush.
And part of me is like, oh, that's probably not true. But that's what I said when I heard that this football player, Travis Kelce, was like trying to get a date with Taylor Swift and going into her concert and trying to give her a bracelet. I was like, dude, that woman is never going to look at you. Like, you're being crazy. And obviously I was wrong about that. So I don't know if my opinion's worth much here. But I guess it's a different situation because neither of them have said anything publicly. They're just known to be single, and this story has come together that they're dating. But I guess it just has to be that perfect storm. It has to be that perfect storm of like, people are very interested in their relationship breakups. People are tracking where they are. These stories have come out. There is a history you can build on. Like a rumor doesn't.
It's a bit of fun.
Yeah, you like the kind of like flame for a rumor can be lit, but for it to build, it needs to have all of these perfect pieces there, and that's what we have here. We have like the perfect flame for a rumor.
If they do officially get together, Joe's going to be pretty upset that he sent her that video.
Yeah, especially because I wonder if it's worse for him that his like ex-wife would be hooking up with like someone who's known to be such an incredible musician. Whereas not that the Jonas Brothers aren't incredible.
A bit of shade
I'm just saying they all tried to launch. I have no beef with the Jonas Brothers. I don't really know that much about them. I mostly know about them because of who they marry.
Yeah.
But I do know that they're not these huge, critically acclaimed, award-winning musicians. That's a fact.
Sorry, I'm just looking over at Mon because Mon, our producer, is a big fan, and she's seething.
Look, say what you want about Coldplay, but I think we can all agree Coldplay trumps the Jonas Brothers in the cultural context.
I agree with you, Laura.
We're saying.
I'm just scared to say it in front of Manisha,
and I'm sure the gals don't want to hear it. But I'm just saying I don't know if Joe's an insecure man. Everything we know about him points to yes. So I would just think that he would just be like. Oh, my! Not only has my ex-wife completely,
I think we should stop.
I feel so safe saying this. Not only has my ex-wife moved on, but she's moved on with a better musician than me.
Yes,
that's all I'll say on the matter. So even if they're not dating, I feel like Sophie Turner, even if she's broken up with the Viscount in waiting, still having a good time. So it's fine.
There's another man with a chip on his shoulder who we're going to talk about next.
Yes. So I feel like it's pretty safe to say that pretty much every woman and a lot of men that I know across the world have been listening to one album over the last few days, and it's Lily Allen's new album, West End Girl.
It has gone absolutely bananas. Now, I know you and Em spoke about this last week and sort of about how it was rumoured that it was going to be about her relationship with David Harbour. And it definitely is.
Yes. And yeah, there's a lot that comes out around her marriage and her divorce and her breakup and allegations. And I feel like that has been the main headline around it, which is fair enough because that's a very kind of salacious story and it's something that people had suspected had happened. And now we have it sort of laid out for us in such a way. But I also feel like just everything about West End Girl, from like how she crafted it to how she released it to how it's been received, is also so interesting because as much as this is like a heartbreak album and a divorce album, and the kind of idea is that she made it really quickly and just poured her soul out into the page, the craftsmanship and the lyricism of this album and those 14 songs, even taking away like the salacious kind of rumors, it's just so incredibly well written and so soulful. And I just think it just goes to show that like there's no one else like Lily Allen out there.
It really reminds me of the Lily Allen that I absolutely fell in love with as a teenager. It is that peak, funny, quirky, deep, soulful Lily Allen that I loved so much. And I feel as though she definitely lost that a little bit. She's been 7 years since her last studio album. And, she actually said in the Sunday Times article that she did recently, I thought I didn't have any good songs left. My writing had been really bad and it took something to happen in my life for everything to blow up, for me to go, oh, here she is. And I really felt that in this. And I don't want this to be like a full review of this album, but I have been listening to it nonstop. And the way that it flows from, if you listen to it start to finish, which I believe is the way she intended it to be listened to, it really is this like roller coaster of emotion from It's Quite Happy, the West End Girl, that first track. And then we start to break it down. Then she's angry and sort of angry at David Harbour. And then it's really sad and heartbreaking towards the end.
And as much as what you're saying about listening to the album in that way, I think that's interesting too, because obviously there's songs that will come out of it that'll be singles and be the songs that stand out. But it really feels like one of those albums that wasn't made for TikTok or wasn't made to have this sort of big breakout song. It's like you've got to listen to it all in one go. Like listening to that song just by listening to the singles would be like opening a book and reading like the middle page. Like it just wouldn't make any sense. And also so interesting in this like age of like pop stars having to do these huge build-ups to album releases that Lily Allen, like yes, she did a little bit of press and she had like one or two like magazine newspaper interviews ready to go. But when you look at that I know Taylor Swift is her whole kind of own being and universe, but when you look at the way that she launches an album, which is like telling people ahead of time in the case of The Life of a Showgirl and having like a countdown on her website and having all these Easter eggs and then releasing like multiple vinyls, releasing multiple kind of things people can buy and having this whole kind of layered build up to it where like the release of the album becomes its own separate entity outside of the actual music itself. And not that's a bad thing, because I know like a lot of people are Taylor Swift fans because they love being involved in that. But I think there's something really interesting about someone like Lily Allen who could have done something like that because she has the cachet over 20 years build up. She has the interest in her life and she has all these connections to Hollywood. Like the man who cheated on her is a very famous man whose TV show that made him so famous is about to come out.
I know. Isn't that a coincidence?
Yeah, exactly. And there's so much, which I do love that move from her. She's like, before he does the whole press tour for Stranger Things, she's like, I'm getting in first.
It was so calculated and absolutely brilliant marketing. So we know that they split up at the end of last year and she wrote this album super quickly. She said she wrote it in 10 days. So I'm assuming that she's kind of been producing it, post-producing it. But she's gone, this guy's going to launch his final season of Stranger Things in a month.
And I'm going to get my side of the story out there first.
And I'm going to get him back.
And just saying to fans like, hey, I've got an album coming out in a few days, and that being enough to like get everyone so intensely excited and for this to be like have this huge successful launch without doing any kind of like Easter eggs, countdowns, huge promo, I think is really interesting.
I quite like also that this is going to be giving her – now obviously Lily Allen is very famous in the UK and here. In America she's not super well known. She admits that. She talks about how when she was living in Brooklyn and in New York, no one knew who she was. So I quite like the idea of this album bringing her to an American audience.
Yeah, if this is the kind of 100% this could be your first time listening to Lily Allen and as much as like her other albums are incredible, like you could just fall in love with her from this album.
Absolutely.
Which I think is super interesting.
So I want to start with West End Girl, which is the first song in the album. And this is basically talking about, you know, she picks up her kids. The whole song is she picks up her kids. They move to Brooklyn. They move to New York. The kids aren't David's kids. And, you know, she's there. She's really happy. They have this home in Brooklyn, which was in Architectural Digest, famously.
Yeah, which she referenced in the song because she says in that song, found ourselves a good mortgage, Billy Cotton sorted. So Billy Cotton is the designer who made that crazy talked about home that went a bit viral in Architectural Digest. Yeah. So she's kind of really, as much as she says like a lot of this album isn't fact, some of it is fiction. Yeah. But then she's dropping all these little clues through there where she's talking about very, very small yet significant parts of her life, like where she's trying to breadcrumb like this is the part that's completely true. This isn't part of the fiction writing.
Yeah, so she gets a role in this West End play, and one of the comments that David makes to her, well, the person in this song makes to her is, oh, you didn't have to audition?
Yeah.
And it screams this kind of insecurity on his part. And I know when she was doing press for this, she was lauded with awards for this particular performance. So this particular West End play is called 222, A Ghost Story. This was back in 2021 that she had this. It was only a year after they got married. So she gets this role. It's unexpected. She's really excited about it. But David's response is like very lukewarm.
Yeah.
In the press for it, he's kind of going, I've been in 100,000 plays and I've never been, you know, awarded of anything. So he's trying to make these jokes. Now, she references there is a letter that he wrote to her on her opening night, and she posted this on her Instagram stories and someone's dug it back up. Now, I want to read this to you. It's really quite telling. My ambitious wife, these are bad luck flowers, because if you get reviewed well in this play, you will get all kinds of awards and I will be miserable. Your loving husband.
It's almost like that whole like Kristen Bell, Dax Shepard thing.
I was under the same
where
thing.
like it's cute if you look at it one way. Because it's like alluding to these, you're like, part of me is like, oh, it's a couple that's so secure in their relationship that they can have they have their own language and jokes that don't upset them because they're so secure in it. But obviously looking back on it, knowing what happens next, it does make a lot of sense that it's like he's trying to sort of make a joke, but it's showing his insecurities. Because the thing about David Harbour is like, yes, he's known for Stranger Things, and yes, now he's in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and he's seen as this like action hero. But for the whole start of his career, he was very much like, I'm a theatre guy. He would go and do like these small like theatre festival circuits in small towns and things. And he always talks about that in a way of like, I'm a real actor. I'm not a Hollywood actor. So I think her coming in doing a West End play, which is seen as something that only real actors do, did really upset him. Like he just wanted her to be like, I'm the real actor and you're a pop star turned kind of wife now. Yeah. And I love also the full circleness of this is that she was on the West End, another play again this year, and got really good reviews. So it wasn't like a flash in the pan. She did it again. She's
clearly a very talented performer. And I mean, I think obviously she'd been having, when they met, she was a few years sober. I think she was only a year sober when they got together, or even less than that. Like she was quite early in her sobriety. You know, we had lockdown. Stranger Things was just gigantic. You know, it was he was having his moment. They meet on Raya, and then this kind of things just sort of change for them, and he asks for an open relationship, which is where things seem to kind of really start to unravel, and we sort of start to see that in the album.
Yeah, so it was this kind of understood thing that she's spoken about where they had an open relationship but with rules around what was he was allowed to do or she was allowed to do, and the idea that he broke those rules and had more of an emotional affair is kind of what led to this album. And this is something she gets onto in the next song on the album, Ruminating, where she talks about, there's like a line where she says, I'm not hateful, but you make me hate her. She gets to sleep next to my medicator and I can't shake the image of her naked on top of you. I'm dissociated. And she keeps saying like, if this casual sex had to happen, why do I have to know? Which is this idea of her kind of realizing what had happened with this affair.
Yeah, and you know, this is it looks like it's not just a single woman as well. Like, I mean, he was talking about being in an open relationship, but in the song Pussy Palace, that is a cutting character analysis of David Harbour. That one and 4chan Stan, they played back to back. This is her, I'm really mad at this guy. Yeah. And this guy's a pig and I'm going to uncover him. In the chorus of Pussy Palace, she goes, I didn't know it was a pussy palace. Pussy Palace, this is a song that's been on my mind. This has been like, I can't get this out of my head. I always thought it was a dojo. And so I'm looking at a sex addict. And so she talks about him being a sex addict. Then she talks about her finding butt plugs, Trojans, lube, all of his stuff in this secret apartment in the West Village that he apparently had that was basically just a place where he took women. And that's the accusation he's making. And now 4chan Stan, she's basically calling him a really sad man. I didn't know what a 4chan Stan man was. Did you know what it meant? I've never heard that phrase before.
I don't know if I have.
I didn't know what it was, but apparently it's kind of a bit of a 4chan Stan. It's like someone who's really deep into 4chan and thinks they're really like ahead of the curve, but they're kind of a bit of an incel.
Yeah, which would make a lot of context in what she's singing about and what she's saying. And also the interesting thing about all these different stories about her talking about the different layers of her discovering him cheating, discovering it was an emotional affair, then discovering it was so many women, discovering he had a whole setup. I've seen a few people sort of be like, oh, but like if they're in an open relationship, then she has no right to be upset or she has no right to do this whole album about his infidelity if it was a setup thing. But I think it's still a huge betrayal if like as a couple you have a rule that you can have an open relationship with a certain amount of like there's parameters that you have to follow.
Absolutely.
And then to find out that he's not only broken all of those rules, but he's gone off in all these different directions of like having an active profile on Raya, which is again a very public thing of like he's married to Lily Allen, but he's still looking for these very exclusive hookups of him, sort of the allegation of him befriending all these women on Instagram and like chasing them down. and having this sort of residence. And then the song Madeline, which is the one everyone is talking about, finding out that it was more than just sex allegedly with this woman. That sort of seems to be like the most heartbreaking thing of the whole album.
Absolutely. And I think that I definitely had that thought when I first saw it. I was like, if they're in an open relationship, then it's not cheating. But she spoke about it very well in the Sunday Times article where she says there's a grey area in this. In when you talk about an open relationship, you put rules and parameters in place, like you said, but there is a grey area when someone breaks those rules. Now, if she was coerced into making this decision to be in an open relationship, which is kind of what you get the sense from the album. Now, we don't know what the situation was, but that's kind of what we get from it. I don't know if you agree. I got the sense that she was really encouraged to do this. She didn't really want to, but she kind of had to.
Yeah, that's the feeling I got, especially as the songs progressed in the album, that she didn't come into it thinking like, I really want to be in an open marriage and that's how I want to live. She sort of allowed that, like she gave him the green flag to do that because it was a way to keep this like former kind of fairy tale marriage, not just a fairy tale marriage for them, but also this very public kind of fairy tale marriage of everyone being obsessed with them as a couple and them doing so much publicity and press together. And then it kind of became like that was the make or break of them staying together. So she said yes, not realizing how badly it was going to escalate.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit more about Madeline, because that's the one that's like really given people a lot to talk about.
Yes. So, I mean, this whole song is very incredible, but there's a line that is particularly being pulled out by people where she says, we had an arrangement, be discreet and don't be blatant. There had to be payment. It had to be with strangers, but you're not a stranger, Madeline.
Basically saying you can have sex with sex workers and it needs to be no emotions attached to it.
Yes.
So the woman who is apparently Madeline is a costume designer called Natalie Tippett. Now, she met David in 2021 while working on the set of his film We Have a Ghost. She's actually come out and spoken and made a statement about this.
Yeah, she's given almost like a long-form interview to the Daily Mail, the Mail on Sunday. And what's so interesting about this is that I'm so shocked that she has come forward so quickly. It's this idea of like, who is Madeline? As soon as the album came out, people started hunting for Madeline. They were going back through like old photos and stories and like old gossip sites and things, trying to piece it together. But as far as I could tell, there wasn't a straight line to her. But the Mail somehow found her and she agreed to this interview. And what's kind of interesting is like Lily Allen kept saying like, oh no, Madeline's not like a specific, not that she's not a specific person, but she's like, yes. And then she's like, I'm using a different name. And she's like, and a lot of this is also fiction. Like she wasn't trying to set people off to find this woman, but that is what happened. It's almost like when Beyonce was like singing about Becky with the good hair and people just really like went trying to find that. But in this case, she did give an interview. So she's a 34-year-old single mother. She lives in New Orleans. Even when they were speaking to her, they're just like, the journalist who's writing up this interview is describing what it's like inside her home while she's talking about being the woman that cheated with David Harbour on Lily Allen, and saying like, oh, she's sitting in this like beautiful home and her kid is like running in and out. And it's just like almost like a feature piece while being a sort of like confessional. And then she said that Natalie then said to the journalist that she is very reluctant to sort of hit back, or very reluctant to have her story turned into like this big kind of public international story, but she feels like she's had no choice but to speak about it. So the journalist asked if she's heard the album, and specifically if she's heard the song Madeline, and she said, of course I've heard the song, and apparently she rolled her eyes, is what the journalist has said. And then she wanted to say, but I have a family and things to protect. I have a 2.5-year-old daughter and I understand that this is going on. It's all a little bit scary to me.
But the way that it's described in the song is that Madeline didn't know that they weren't allowed to be. Like, apparently David had told her.
Yeah.
So, but the way that it's voiced in the song feels it's a bit sort of it's a bit of a caricature.
Well, yeah, exactly. They have this, like, they basically have all these text messages, which we now know are real, read out in a sense, like in the song, saying like, oh, I didn't know this was going to happen, and I'm so sorry, and I don't want to hurt you. And there's a part where she's like, let me know if you want any more information. Let me know if you want more about this. Like, I'm trying to sort of help. And then apparently she told the journalist that she knew prior to the album being released that all her text messages were included in the song. And then she said, yes, I knew, but I just don't feel comfortable talking about it at this moment, which I understand. Like, I just hope Natalie's got some people around her, because I just feel like this is doing this interview, but then not talking about it.
Yeah. You've invited them into your home, but now you don't want to talk about it. You're like, you're cutting it off before it's even started.
Yeah, I just hope she's got some people around her, because it just seems like she's a single mother who met this man while she was working on a TV show, and he was the star, and he told her, this is the story that she's told, that he told her that he had an open marriage from his very famous wife, and they could absolutely hook up. And so they did that, and she believed him, and she's a lot younger than him. And then apparently when filming wrapped, he flew her to Atlanta when he was based without telling Lily Allen. So there's this whole story.
Yeah, let's not attack this woman.
And then she's coming out and giving an interview about it, but also saying not giving her side of the story. I just feel like it's put a big target on her head.
Yeah.
But she's got nothing out of it.
She hasn't explained it well enough to warrant her actually speaking up. Do you know what I mean? She's brought this person into her home. She's brought this journalist to tell her side of the story, but then has gone, actually, I don't want to tell my side of the story.
Yeah.
I think what's really interesting to me is the massive, massive social media outreach since this album has been released. David Harbour has had to switch off all of the comments on his Instagram.
Yeah, I bet he has.
Everything has been switched off. I went back through it. I found one that didn't get switched off. I imagine that because it's quite a laborious task, they didn't do one. The comments are vitriolic.
Yeah.
Like, you are horrible, you're disgusting. Like, it's pretty vile. Like, I don't think what he did is very good, and I love this album, and I love Lily Allen, and screw him. But it's not nice to see all of that. It's pretty intense.
Yeah,
it's a lot.
And it definitely has put even though Lily Allen is, like, at the end of the day, she's an artist, and I feel like she should be able to put this out into the world. And I was kind of on the fence about, like, the timing of it, because I feel like she put it out when she was in a huge emotional state, and she was kind of really in the midst of feeling this pain. And so for any other human being, I'd say, like, that's probably not the thing to do. But when you're an artist of, like, especially of that caliber, and you, like, write from the heart like that, it's almost like she needed to do that to have this album be out in the world. And to sort of, yes, there's going to be fallout for it, but it almost feels justified for what's happened. And yeah, David Harbour's going to cop it. But, you know, he's fine. He's a big action star.
I know,
the industry loves him.
I don't like
he's going to be
it's
fine.
Like a lot.
I'd be more interested what comes out from Natalie Tippett now that she's outed herself as the Madeline without sort of giving any context, and has asked to be left alone. But I knew nothing about this woman prior to this, and I know where she lives. I know the area she lives in.
It's a bit scary.
I know how old her daughter is. I know a little bit about, like, the cadence of their day when she was talking about that. Like, I just feel like we shouldn't have. I feel like Madeline should have stayed a kind of far away figure, an idea, and I shouldn't know how old her daughter is kind of what I'm getting from that. But yeah, overall the album, so that's a whole roundabout back. The album's great.
The album is amazing. I am, like, such a big fan. Lily Allen has, like, this is mind-blowing album. It's gotten very, very good reviews by, like, musical reviewers. So I would highly recommend listening to it. It's freaking messy, and it really, David Harbour is actually a bit of a prick.
Yeah, but also sometimes sometimes breakups just have to be messy, I feel. Like, this whole, like, of, you know, we're best friends, conscious uncoupling, like, that's out the door. Like, we're back to messy celebrity breakups.